Greetings and salutations, and yes, I'm filming on Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas. There's not going to be a free game Friday this week because the Epic Store is putting out games every single day. So I can't just make a single video and then be like, yes, this is the free game Friday, because then it would defeat the purpose of, free game Friday, which makes it run for an entire week. Now, there is something that I did want to talk about, though. And I guarantee you it's going to make a lot of people. Wait, was that a 3-socketed shield? It was. I just need a rail or and tell. It's going to make a lot of people upset. Specifically those in the anime community. And let me preface this way. I consider Naruto and Naruto Shippuden to be one canonical anime. So it's over 600 episodes. And I'm going to say that any canonical anime, or any anime that exists out there, whose runtime is greater than even 500 episodes, I would consider a sellout. They've just sold out. They've sold out for money, they're not adhering to their principles, and they're not adhering to the story. And this is... Wow, that hurt. This is anime like One Piece, anime like Case Closed, Naruto. I can't say Dragon Ball Z completely, because Dragon Ball Z as a whole is only like 300 episodes for Dragon Ball Z. And it's like 100 and something for Dragon Ball. Which, yeah, altogether, I would say they kind of sold out. But there's a little bit of caveat and nuance to both Dragon Ball and others. And then, of course, One Piece doesn't have that caveat, doesn't have that nuance, and neither does Naruto. But let's start with Dragon Ball, right? The original Dragon Ball was the early life, as everybody knows. You had Goku in his early life leading up to effectively the end of the Red Ribbon Army, and then, of course, the Daimo Piccolo arc. And to a degree, that was one set of storyline, right? Because they even jumped ahead. Especially right near the end there, they jumped ahead to where he had become more of an adolescent, early 20s individual and won the tournament, right? Tenkaichi Budokai or whatever. So then it goes on to be a secondary storyline with Dragon Ball Z, right? Now, Akira Toriyama wanted to end Dragon Ball Z at the, what I would say, logical closure point, which was the death of Frieza, right? He wanted there to be the death of Frieza, the death of Goku at the same time, which, if you think about it, that's where it should have canonically ended. Reason being, Goku achieves the golden Super Saiyan, what have you, right? Defeats Frieza. It's now, he is the character of legend. Vegeta is left out in the cold when it comes to achieving that legendary power. Vegeta's greatest rival that has beaten him multiple times no longer has his rival. His rival is gone. And now it's up to his son and the other people to defend the Earth. From what? Who knows? Because, well, I mean, the greatest evil that was out there is already gone. And Vegeta set aside his differences to help defeat Frieza. So, there's that. And then we go further, right? Akira Toriyama was then approached by fans that wanted the series to continue, right? It wasn't a production company that walked up to him and said, "Hey, we want you to keep making. No. It was fans of the show that said, we want more, please make more. So he begrudgingly made more, which led into the Cell Saga, which led into the Boo Saga, and other things like that. And then he ended it there. Now, GT was not made by him, and neither was Dragon Ball Super. Though, as far as I know, to my knowledge, Dragon Ball Super was the spiritual successor, and he chose somebody to do it instead. So it came with his graces, so to speak. Whereas GT did not. And this is why they pretty much laud GT as non-canonical. Which is fine. But even then, Dragon Ball Z is somewhat of a sellout later on, because it does kind of sell out to the corporate machine eventually. So it falls into that weird... It originally started out becoming a longer series due to the fans, but became a corporate sellout later. And so it kind of falls into that weird caveat. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because of two content creators have recently said they are going to start watching One Piece. The weird part is one of those content creators had already stated that he had watched it. And now he was saying that he's going to start watching it. Not continue watching it, but start watching it. So, what happened before? Did you just not remember that you started watching it? Did you conveniently forget? And if you can't tell, it was Mr. Beast and IShowSpeed. I have nothing against either of them. I just don't like the disingenuous nature that Mr. Beast said, oh, I'm going to start watching One Piece, even though prior to that he said he had already watched it. This was discovered by people on Twitter who took some time to actually look into it. And it's like, well, I mean, just, don't lie about it, dude. If you're going to say I'm going to start watching it again, that's a bit different. But he didn't say it that way. No. He said it as just, I'm going to start watching it. And now we get to my problems with One Piece. One Piece is 100% corporate machine. The creator has lost the plot entirely. If you're a fan of One Piece, I'm sorry to burst your bubble and ruin it for you, but the creator has completely and entirely lost the plot. Reason I say this. Let's take a look at One Piece. It is just about 1,100 episodes, roughly. And in those 1,100 episodes, what has anybody received in terms of, let's say, any form of plot development? Not much. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but, Monkey D. Luffy, he got new forms. Okay, he got new forms. But what about the plot? Not much has progressed on the plot. It's kind of just slow boat. Just not moving. It's just not there. And that's because the people that make it are more worried about their next paycheck and itemization and monetization and merchandising than they are about the actual product and about the storyline that the product is. Right? So they basically become a product of corporate sellout, where they're just selling out for profit. Which is fine. If you want to make something for profit, go ahead, knock yourself out, make something for profit. But nothing happens. Well, it's another, Shonen Power Arc anime. Okay, cool. Another Shonen Power Arc anime. Just like Dragon Ball, whatever. Now, here's where people are going to get a little bit upset. Case Closed, which is also 1,100 episodes, also fell into the whole corporate sellout bracket. However, the caveat with Case Closed is, unlike One Piece, you can kind of delve into Case Closed for 2 episodes, 1 to 2 episodes, and get a little tiny mystery that happens, a little bit of a whodunit, right? Kind of like Scooby-Doo. But you could sit down and take in 1 to 2 episodes back to back and get a nice little whodunit storyline. You don't have to invest in the other 1,100 episodes to get it. Nope. Just 1 to 2 episodes, you're good to go. You're golden. Great little, 2-day story. A 2-day story. A little, as they call them in the tattoo industry, a zapper. Just a little short zapper, Gives you a nice little story. Have some fun with it. Watch it, etc. One Piece doesn't do that. At all. You have to watch from the beginning all the way through in order to make heads or tails of it. Naruto is much in the same way. You can't just take 2 episodes out of it and just watch those 2 episodes. Same thing with Dragon Ball Z. You can't do the same thing there. It requires the rest of the story. Same with Bleach, just so we're clear. All of them all do the same thing. But there's a difference between all of them, right? Naruto, One Piece, and Case Closed all basically sold out to the corporate machine. Bleach did to a point. To a point. And then they drew a line in the sand. Specifically Kubo, the creator, drew a line in the sand with the Weekly Shonen and basically said, no, it's my story and I'm going to do it the way I want to. And he started having creative differences with the Weekly Shonen. So the Weekly Shonen basically said to him, okay, Kubo, creative differences, you're on. And effectively told him, either change the story the way we want it, or you're done in 6 weeks. Gave him a 6-week deadline. This was during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. They had a little bit of a kerfuffle over it. And Kubo said, nope, it's my story. I'm keeping it my story. Like it or lump it. And the Weekly Shonen said, okay. You're done in 6 weeks then. Now imagine that. You're writing a story and the corporate interest basically says, write it this way. And Kubo stood up with it, and had the balls to basically stand up, look him right square in the eye and say, no. Nobody else did that. Creator of Naruto didn't. Creator of One Piece didn't. They all just were like, yep, absolutely. This is the way we're going to take the story. And to be fair, it kind of ruined it. Not so much for their pocketbooks, mind you, but for everything else, for all other intents and purposes. You now have a story that's kind of gotten off the rails. Like, when's the last time they actually got back to the plot at hand in One Piece? They confirmed that the One Piece is real. Okay? And now what? And now it's like, now we play the waiting game, apparently. He doesn't actually own a piece. I think he found out that somebody was his dear old dad. And it's like, okay. So you have a couple of plot twists, but otherwise it's just straightforward. Nothing's happening. Which I find a little weird. That it's quite literally, nothing's happening. I mean, at least Naruto had a consistent plot underneath it that they kind of stayed with it. They deviated here and there a bit because they had to in order to kind of keep that whole power arc going. Give certain people plot armor, that kind of thing. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. And that's my problem with like the Shonen Power arc anime, especially with stuff that goes over 500 episodes. I mean, it's starting to get to the point where it's like if it goes even remotely close to 100 episodes, you're starting to look like a sellout. Maybe it's because I'm a fan of the shorter series. Maybe that's it.
How can one who was once so holy fall so far from righteousness?
But maybe that's me. Like I said, maybe I'm the old guy. Maybe I'm the boomer in the rumor. You know? Because I grew up watching, to a degree, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z. Which, don't get me wrong, great introductory anime if you're a kid and you want to watch completely mindless fights and people screaming like they're constipated. It's great, right? However, it kind of drags on a little bit later. If I had to say that, if I had to be that guy, I'm gonna wait for my stamina to regen down there. But that's the thing is like one of the best parts of Dragon Ball Z, in my estimation, was where Gohan started going to high school and had to keep his identity a secret. That's cool. That was the cool part because it's like, okay, they can't talk about this. It's like they saw you people fighting in the Tenkaichi Budokai. How many times? Flying around, performing all this weird stuff for years, and then all of a sudden you guys disappear, and then the Budokai gets to be weak, and your A number. Well, I gotta have to regen my stamina again. Your number one contestant is Mr. Satan. Kind of weak. And so it's kind of that hiding the secret identity, kind of almost like a Superman thing. It was kind of cool, right? And he hid it behind his Super Saiyan transformation. I was gonna say transition. He ended up being called the Golden Hero or whatever. But nevertheless, it was a cool little jaunt, right? And that was my favorite part of the entire story. Didn't care much about the power arcs. That didn't matter. It's like, okay, whatever. Another character got to be powerful, whoop-de-doo. Didn't matter to me. Him having that whole, like, oh, I can't let anyone know I'm this. And so now I make an alternate personality, and I can't let anyone know that's me either. It's just kind of cool. It was a deviation from the normal thing, and I liked it. See, I also think, and this is just my suspicions kicking in. I also think that there's a ploy at foot here with these two big names wanting to talk about One Piece all of a sudden. And I think the ploy is to kind of astroturf its popularity before the new season of the live action comes out. Not that I watched the first season, and not that I'm going to watch the second season either, so I think it's a joke. But we'll see. Just like with Death Note, right? I had a discussion, live action versus anime versus manga kind of thing. I had a discussion with one of my friends about this, and I said, well, if you watch the live action first, and then you watch the anime, and then you read the manga, you'll be fine. I said, but if you do it in reverse, you're going to think it's garbage. So, that was my take on it. Now, he kind of looked at me weird and he goes, why do you say that? Because I've seen it. I've seen the anime, and then I watched the live action. The live action was terrible, comparatively. Absolutely abysmal, comparatively. Nope, I need two more. Gonna have to consolidate those gems too. Unfortunately, and this is something I am going to say kind of reluctantly, unfortunately, I am going to have to cut this episode short. Because nature is calling. And this is not a call one can ignore. Don't worry. I'll pick this up at a later date. Sorry it was a short video. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Because I did as well. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow. I hope they have a very Merry Christmas. And as always, have a good one.